All that seems to be on my mind is husband. I just wanna touch a onion. She just want a couple hundred. I got mad and changed the subject. Then I got drunk and said fuck it. This is for my hustling niggas. This is for my hustling bitches. Pull up with that Aquafina. Yellow bone, her name is Tina. Tina like the hit casinos. Tina could snort a whole kilo. Tina like to fight and argue. Bye bye Tina, bitch, you are you? Met a dark skin chick named Anna. Anna like that marijuana. Anna was from the Bahamas. At least that's what she said. I assume she's honest. I apologize, Your Honor. I just wanted.
What's good? What's good? What's good? Everybody, what's good? We back. We made it back for another one. Another day, another dollar. Y'all know the deal. Give me just a second. Let me make sure everything's working, things twerking correctly. We can get it going for a little while. What's good with everybody? Hit that like button as you come through. Subscribe if you ain't subscribed. Drop me a comment. Let me know who's in here. All right, so we working. All right, y'all. So I asked a question on the in the community section earlier, and it was basically, is Terence Crawford the new cherry picking king of boxing? And I got a decent response. Basically, I think everybody feels like, he, up until this point, his career has been guided, to say the least. That he hasn't faced the stiffest competition. He hasn't challenged himself up until this point. He's caught a lot of fighters at the right time. Bob Arum was guiding him for a little while. And now he's guiding his own ship. But is he going down a road of kind of what Mayweather, the road that Mayweather paved, the road of cherry picking, boring fights, never giving fans what they truly want. And ultimately, because Mayweather made a lot of money with that style, don't get me wrong, but I think it could backfire on Crawford, because the difference is Mayweather at that time, pay-per-views were still selling, and they were selling big. Now pay-per-views are not selling, and you cherry picking your fights. So at the end of the day, maybe fans might get sick of, y'all might have already gotten sick of that style of fighting. Alik Sheridan Von Nor. I don't know what that means. I gotta look that up and see what that is. But I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Halik Shadam. Halik Shadam. Man, definitely appreciate that, bro. Appreciate that comment. But it's funny because Terence Crawford, I think he has the skill, he has the personality, he has everything in place to be a big time fighter. I don't know why he's in a bigger name. He has a big enough name, but I don't understand why his name isn't bigger, or at least as big as Errol Spence. Errol Spence gets a lot of airplay. Errol Spence has a lot of fan base. Errol Spence has a lot of channels on his side. And it's like everybody right now is kind of against Terence Crawford. Look, I've said from the beginning, I'm neutral. I'm a Pacquiao fan, but Pacquiao's in the round right now, so we had to move on to other fighters. And if I had to pick, and I said this in a video before, if I had to pick one of those two guys to actually hang out with on a daily basis, it would be Terence Crawford, just because of his personality. I see his Instagram, I see the stuff he likes to do, and it's similar to the stuff that I like to do. On the other hand, if I had to pick one of those guys for winning the fight, it would have to be Errol Spence. I just like what he does in the ring over what Crawford has done in the ring, and I based that off of resume and who you fought. That's resume and how much of a challenge it was at the time. Spence went overseas to fight Kell Brooks, so I give him a lot of points for that. Um, and popularity, Spence has the popularity, so I think because of those three factors, resume, the tougher fights and popularity, Spence is going to get the fight probably where he wants. He's going to be the A side. It's probably going to be in Texas. He's going to have the fan base. He has the ring generalship because he's been in the tougher fights and he's been over. He's fought champions in their country, so he's been the underdog before in fights. And that Kell Brook fight was a big fight. It was a big resume booster for Errol Spence. I think it got him a lot of fans that didn't know who Errol Spence was before that fight. As far as overseas, and a lot of those guys, I think a lot of those fans, once they saw Spence and what he accomplished by beating Kell Brook, then a lot of them became Spence fans. That just hasn't resonated yet for Terence Crawford. Appreciate those likes. Keep hitting that like button for me as y'all come through. That just hasn't resonated yet for Terence Crawford, I think, because of Bob Arum. I think if they would have matched him with Pacquiao back in both of their prime, Terence Crawford would be a bigger name right now than Errol Spence, even if he lost to Pacquiao back then. I think back then he would have had the boomerang effect because the whole old culture wasn't as big as it is now. He would have had the boomerang effect similar to Canelo Alvarez, where he lost to Floyd Mayweather, but he ended up being more popular after he lost to Floyd Mayweather than ever. So I think if he would have matched him up back then, he would be a bigger star than he is now. Unfortunately for him, they didn't. And I think another asterisk on his record is the way he actually became a champion. And I always go back to this, but people tend to forget the way he became a champion was Pacquiao went to Australia. He fought Jeff Horn. They basically stripped Pacquiao that title because they knew he was on his way out of Top Rank. And Jeff Horn became the champion. And then they fed Jeff Horn to Terence Crawford, and Terence Crawford became the champion. So I think that in itself kind of, it kind of left a bad taste in some people's mouths, especially mine. I'm not going to lie. I don't like how he became champion. I think if now you could say, well, he beat Jeff Horn beat Pacquiao, but, we all know that Jeff Horn really didn't beat Pacquiao. So to me, that's an asterisk on his resume. To me personally, that's an asterisk on his resume. To me personally, the way he became champion wasn't as difficult as the way Errol Spence became champion. That's the why, and these are logical reasons why I don't place Terence Crawford above Errol Spence. Why I think he doesn't deserve a 50-50 split. 60-40 is way more than fair. 65-35 is way more than fair. Even 70-30 is fair. Because you're just not as popular. You didn't achieve the way Spence achieved. You got handed a belt. Spence has 2 belts. So, Spence has always won up Crawford when it comes to the sport of boxing. So, to me, those are logical reasons why any fan will say, okay, well, I'm picking Errol Spence over Terence Crawford, But that's not to say Crawford's not a good guy. That's not to say Crawford's not a good boxer. That's not to say Crawford doesn't deserve accolades like everybody else. Everybody goes back to what he did at 140, that he was unified champion. The only problem with bringing that up as an argument is it's not 147. You gotta. If he had unified a couple of belts at 147, I give those people an argument. But those people only bring that up because that's the only thing they have to try to combat an Errol Spence fan. And I'm not a Spence fan. Like I said, I base it off of logic. But what he did at 140 was an accomplishment but it hasn't moved to 147, or it hasn't resonated at 147. He hasn't had the same splash at 147 as he did at 140. So, I don't blame people. I don't blame people for saying he don't sell. He only got one title. He hasn't faced the toughest competition. But at the end of the day, he's still a likable guy. So you can't hate Terence Crawford. I'm not against him at all. I do wish him the best. But I just feel like up until this point, he's been a bad businessman on his own accord. And he's done a lot of things to hurt himself in the sport, to where he should have been building himself up the whole time. Like that turning down Pacquiao twice was horrible. Turning down Errol Spence, I think like 2 times is horrible. Not fighting Keith Thurman up until this point. Not fighting any of the other fighters that were out there. The Broners, he could have at least matched up with Broner by now. If he'd have fought Broner in his prime, I think, because Broner's popularity was huge at one time. And, Pacquiao kind of killed that. He had a little bit of fame still left when he had fought Pacquiao, but Pacquiao took all that away when he beat him. So, he's never put himself in the right position to win. Not saying, the future isn't bright for Terence Crawford. There'll be plenty of fights out there for him to make, to shut all the doubters up, to shut the haters up, and make even me say, he deserves more of a split. Because I think that's what makes most Terence Crawford fans mad, is that they feel like it's disrespectful what they offering him for that fight. And he's accomplished so much in the sport. Hey, I'm the type to say, when you move up to a different division, you got to show and prove. So at this point, he just hasn't shown and prove. But I do like his personality. And I made a little video. Y'all can check out this video, man. Terence Crawford's a likable guy, man. Tell me what y'all think.
Nowadays, everybody in their daddy got the 5 spit. Key spit what you fight 5s with.
Yo, what's up? My little homies. I ain't got no charge. Man, I just gotta, get some facts straight out here, man. I hear, a couple of us always got my name in their mouth, putting out some false information.
The difficulty in making the fight with Terence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr., and pretty much it was this. Terence Crawford is pretty much boxed in. We all know who the PBC is run by, Al Heyman, and I'm sure Floyd Mayweather Jr. as well.
So, what is you fans is gonna say? Oh, you beat a bum. you beat a nobody. This is my prize jewels. You see the face, June 9th, 2018. How many years? Whew. Locked. Since I was 7. Hey, so I'm sitting over here teaching my son how to make a basketball hoop with a net out of a hanger, a plastic bag from the stove. See, this is what we used to do when I was a kid, when I was probably like 5 in the early 90s. We didn't have no basketball hoops, to play with, so we had to improvise. Get you a hanger, plastic bag, some tape, sock, ball it up, get you a door. Put that in there like that.
All the way in Omaha.
Outside, they slang.
All right, y'all. So, Terence Crawford's he's a humble guy, man. He's a likable guy. He's a cool guy. He's a good boxer. He's just he just hasn't made the right moves at this point when it comes to marketing himself, I think, correctly. Since he's such a family man, a humble dude, I don't think he cares about that really. I think he's really more into the sport of things, But this is a business, so to make money, you got to be selling yourself. You got to constantly be selling yourself to make money. And Errol Spence is he's obviously figured that part out, or his team, the people he put around him figured that out and learned how to market him and make him a bigger name than even maybe he should be. Whether you think his talent is up to par or not. His team did just enough to make his name, So Terence Crawford just has to figure out how to continue to make his name. I know by now you would think that, he shouldn't have to continue to make a name in the sport off of what he's accomplished. But, until you get to that point where everybody knows you and you are selling those bigger numbers on pay-per-view, it's an uphill battle. You gotta keep working, man. You can't never stop working. And what I do like about certain fighters like Boots Ennis is that he's not signing with a promotional company. He's choosing to do it, pretty much on his own. Get fights when he can get them. Let his skills speak for themselves. Unfortunately for him as well, I think it's going to take a while for him to become popular, unless he finds some type of gimmick that works for him, that gets people on his side and that gets people rolling with him. But his talent is so good, you would think his talent would be selling itself. And he's one of those guys that could end up in the same situation as Terence Crawford, to where he has to figure out later in his career how to sell himself when when all of this stuff should already be established. And the one thing people are always going to say, well, he's talented. He's talented. If he doesn't somehow figure that out, and he's 20, 29, 30 years old, and people still don't know who he is. Well, they're going to say, well, he's talented. He's talented. Well, talent only carries you so far. You can be the most talented person in the world. Like it took for Drake to go get with Cash Money for him to blow up. He needed the right push around him for him to blow up. So it's gonna take for Terence Crawford to get around the right the right people for him to get over that hump. He definitely needs that Spence fight, or a fight bigger than a Spence fight, which would be, to me, either Josh Taylor or something at 154. Josh Taylor comes with a built-in fan base, so he'd get introduced to another new crowd of people. It'll be a big-time fight. 154, anybody who beats at 154 will get him a lot of pats on the back. So, we ultimately, at the end of the day, get the Spence fight, which I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm hoping it happens this year. A lot of people are banking on it happening this year. They holler at strap season all day long, but until we actually get it signed, and until it's the day of the fight, because I just knew, I'm like, man, Pacquiao Spence is going to be the greatest fight of 2021. Pacquiao's going to get to make his reemergence. This is it. We finally getting some unification opportunities, and it all fell apart 2 weeks before the fight. So, they could discuss it all day, but until they ultimately sign that fight and people can breathe a sigh of relief on the day of the fight, then we got to speak it for what it is, because to me personally, I think it's going to be hard to make it unless he signs either with Mayweather or PBC, because I just don't see anybody else wanting to negotiate with him. Nobody really wants to sign him at this point, so I don't see anybody wanting to negotiate with him if he goes and gets with another promotional company, because like Bob Earl, there's just going to be another head in the way of getting the fight made. So I would love to see it. I would actually like to see what would come out of him signing with Mayweather. You know, I think Oscar would be good for him, but I think Oscar ultimately would get in the way of the fight being made. And I just want to see the fight get made. And I think if he did sign with Mayweather Promotions, the fight could definitely get made, and it could get made really quickly. And it might get made for the end of 2022. You know, as soon as the guys is over with, and he's already signed, I think it can get made. It can get made, you know. So I look forward to Terence Crawford, making something happen and making something happen quick, man. Because if we don't get that fight, I definitely don't want to see him fight a Keith Thurman, a Barrios, a Mikey Garcia, Danny. You know, strike all those names off the list. Adrian Broner. If he can't get that Spence fight, I definitely would like to see him go after maybe a Sandonis. If Spence gets out of that mandatory situation. Maybe he goes in and challenges a guy like Sandonis or a guy like Boots, and tries to get give fans a good fight and do it independently and do it in Nebraska. You know, you got a big fan base there. You got this where your core is. You know, you got the money to put the fight on, and if you believe in yourself that much, I think him and a Boots in this fight would do real good there. I think it would sell really, really good there, and he would make he would stand as an independent to make a lot of money off of it. And, it would be a perfect tune-up for Errol Spence fight. You know, I feel like Boots is the perfect prototype of both of them guys. Boots is the hybrid of Spence and Crawford. He's got talent of both of those guys. And if Crawford can somehow manage to beat Boots, you know, I would I would give him all, and you deserve at that point a 50-50, a split, you know. And you would have done it you would have put a show on as an independent. You would have sold what you sold. I think that fight would do 150,000 buys. I think that fight would do pretty good. And I think it would sell good in Nebraska because, you know, in Omaha, everybody knows Terence Crawford. He just got to find new ways to market himself. If he could do that, and maybe even take a page out of Trilla's book and get the hottest rappers in Nebraska. You know, put a show on like Trilla put on. You know, do his fight as the main event. Have some rappers there. You know, put the local rappers on in the event. You know what I'm saying? Highlight the local rappers in the beginning of the event. You know, go get some lower level fighters from the area. Put them on. You know, start because I think boxing, that's where it's going to start at. Because I talk a lot about the tournament style of boxing and them needing to go into a tournament style of boxing. And I think if boxers would start being more independent and putting on their own shows, being their own promoters, then they could start hosting their own tournaments. And maybe they'll have like regional tournaments. And they would just have a lot more control over what happens in the sport. You know, we wouldn't have to deal with the Bob Erms and the Al Haymans of the world because, like rap music, you know, at one point the record labels control rap music. You don't really need a record label now unless you're a huge multi-million album selling or multi-million stream selling artist like Drake or like Nicki Minaj or like, Kanye West. You know, you don't really need a label. And at this point, you know, those guys don't need a label, but they contractually obligated. So, you know, when you're not contractually obligated to something, you can be an independent and you can do what like a Young Dolph did. Young Dolph was one of the biggest rappers in the world, and he was doing it all off his own accord. It was his own way, putting on his own shows and making huge money off of it. It's time for boxers to start taking that type of push when it comes to their careers. And Terence, Mayweather, as much as I hate him, he was the prototype for that idea. He started to take his career more in his own hands. He started promoting himself as a bad guy and he started winning. You know, he was winning big. You know, so you know it's gonna take for boxers to do something outside the box. We don't want the old. We know we want this new style of boxing. We just don't want the Jake Pauls of the world. We want real boxers, but we wanted y'all to infuse that with what these YouTube boxing guys are doing. You know, because they winning and they winning big with they brand of boxing. So if you can infuse some of what they doing and some of what Trilla's doing with music, and you know bringing rap into boxing, putting on shows so it draws a bigger audience into it. You know, you can do all it yourself. He got the money, he got the clout, he knows these people, so he can do all this type of stuff. And it'll be interesting to see. And like I said too, you know, I'm surprised there are not more boxers on YouTube running their own YouTube channels, because you know you got comedians starting to run their own channels. You got actors. Will Smith runs his own channel. You know, I'm surprised there's not a lot more boxers that do that, because they would build a fan base really quickly just by vlogging their entire life, and then throwing shows off of that and free promotion he would get from that. It'd be ridiculous. So you know, it's gonna take for Terence Crawford to think outside the box for him to become the star, the superstar, and make the type of money he wants to make. And I think this is the year, you know, this is the year of the reset for the whole world, man. Hopefully we come out of what we've been going through as a whole, man. Everybody's going through. So I think this is the year of the reset, man, the rebirth. You know, Terence Crawford can rebuild himself into something different. I'm not saying he should go and sign with Floyd Mayweather and then market himself as a bad guy. I'm just saying, you know, he should go sign with Mayweather and start reinventing the way he markets himself, or the way he puts on his shows, and the way, you know, because what Trilla's been doing was interesting. You know, with putting the rap music, and I know that costs a lot of money to put that type of stuff on, but that's why I say he don't have to do it with the superstar rappers. He can do superstar rappers once it starts becoming more popular formula, and he starts making more money off of it. But take your local rappers, put your local rappers on. You know, the biggest local rappers that you got, take them guys and put them, you know, let them open your show up, you know, so that you can feed off of their fan base, and your fan base will be there and make the show even more hype. And if you're fighting a guy like Boots, you know, Boots isn't a big name, but Boots got 20, 30,000 people that follow him. If you can get 10,000, you know, 15,000 of them people to come to your show, and plus your 20 or 30,000, that's 40, 50. You know, you could pack an arena with that, you know, by yourself. And it might cost you $1 million to put the fight on, but you're going to make 50, 60, 70 million in the process. So it's time for these guys to start reinventing themselves, reinventing their own career. Because if you leave it up to guys like Bob Arum to dictate everything that you're doing as a fighter, you're going to keep ending up in these situations to where you trying to sue the guy who made you a superstar because he didn't make you a big enough superstar. You know, it really don't make sense. You know, forget about Bob Arum. You got enough money now to where you can do whatever you want to with your career. You know, he shouldn't even be wasting time with this. He should be like, man, okay, I'm independent now. Mayweather laid the groundwork. Jake Paul took off with it. And these guys ain't even real fighters. I'm going to show y'all what a real fighter can do with that formula. I'm going to put on my own fights. I'm going to start fighting these young lions. And until Spence comes to the table, I'm going to do my own thing and make my own money. He can make his own brand. You know what I'm saying? And make it bigger than what the money team thing is. Make it bigger than what PBC is. He just got to be willing to. It seems almost like he don't want to invest in himself. If he goes and signs with somebody else, then he don't want to invest in himself. But he's a likable guy at the end of the day, and you know I can't blame him. It's a long shot, but he's famous enough to where anytime he puts on a fight, he's going to get between 100 and 150,000 pay-per-view buys. So he needs to be leveraging that and using that to his advantage, and thinking of new ways to market himself. I'm telling you, the first fighter that jumps onto YouTube and starts to vlog their career is gonna blow up. You know, they're gonna be as big as Jake Paul, because what they're gonna do is they're gonna tap into what he did basically, and they're already famous, so they can get on here and get 150,000 fans instantly. You know, 150,000 subscribers instantly if they wanted to. The same way, you know, about 2 years ago, PBC, all these big boxing channels, they wasn't on YouTube. You know, PBC, Showtime, they wasn't running the algorithm 2 and 3 years ago. You know, they were still getting the TV dollars. Then when everything switched and everybody moved from getting cable into streaming and streaming networks and streaming sites like YouTube, then you know their channels took off, and now they, you know, we as little channels are competing with, you know, the biggest brands out there of boxing, like the PBCs and the Showtimes of the world, and we're getting crushed. I know I'm getting crushed, you know, because I can't keep up with the pace that they're setting. You know, they'll put out 5 videos a day. I can't, you know, put out 5 videos a day and 3 of them is exclusive interview. You know, you're gonna get crushed. So you got to come up with a new gimmick to be able to reach your audience. Because people will get bored with you just like that. Yeah, you know, and what Terence Crawford has been doing up until now has been boring. You know, it's getting boring. Errol Spence is exciting as much as you hate to say it. Him hanging out with rappers all day is exciting. Him crashing his car, and luckily he survived. And you know, all that is excitement. It's like, wow, this guy's a real person. You know, Terence Crawford's almost just like, you know, family men get no love. Family man, you know, family. It's hard to promote a family man. And Terence Crawford is a likable family guy, you know, so he needs a new gimmick, man, to promote himself. J1 Pro, what's good, man? Appreciate you for tapping in. Charlo has a channel, Ringside with Lions. Okay, so he has his own channel. Okay, I didn't know that. I'm gonna have to go check that out. Yeah, man, that's gonna become big. How many subscribers do we got, J1? How many subscribers? You know, matter of fact, I'm gonna look it up. I'm just looking it up now. Let's see how many subs that Charlo got. Because I'm telling you, that's going to be the next big thing is for these guys to get on. It's free promotion all day long. Free promotion, free promotion. Ringside with the Lions. You know, Shawn Porter jumped on it. Shawn Porter got the Welterweight podcast. You know, these are the people that they're going to be. I mean, he could retire from boxing at that point. He don't need boxing at this point because I'm pretty sure his channel's making ridiculous amounts of money. Ringside. Oh, hold on. I brought up my own. See, he got 50,000 subscribers already. You know what I'm saying? It'll take me 6 years at the pace I'm going to get 60,000 subscribers. You know, it's guys that I've been following for 10 years. You know, the guys I used to follow 5, 6, 7 years ago in the boxing world of YouTube that still don't have 50,000 subscribers. Now, I'm not going to put their names out there, but it's a bunch of them that still don't have. You know, it takes a long time. Yeah, you got 50K. It takes a long time to get there if you're not famous. But if you famous, you instantly popular. So, look at Manny Pacquiao's channel. And I didn't know he had a channel until after he was already retired. And his son got a channel. And it's like they got millions of subscribers. So, you know, it's just the wave of today. And when it comes to an active fighter, you know, at that point, you wouldn't have to come to me to get your Terence Crawford news. You can go straight to his. I guess he does that on Instagram or something. But YouTube's a totally different animal than Instagram and Facebook and all that. Yeah, you know, you're able to monetize your whole life on YouTube. And this is where eventually you gotta come to YouTube if you want to play that type of game. And there's millions of dollars for these guys to be made for these guys out here. You know, if I can figure out how to do that for myself, believe me, I'll be jumping on it. But I'm on here for, you know, because I just want to give my thoughts. I don't feel like this will ever grow into maybe a power, because I don't how many subscribers does Shawn Porter got? Shawn Porter's podcast, what's the name of his podcast? Shawn Porter. What is it? Welterweight podcast? Podcast. What is the name of Shawn Porter's? Okay, here it is. The Porterweight podcast. How many subscribers do Shawn Porter got 60,000 subscribers. Like it's easy. And I'm pretty sure he doing, 10, 11, 12,000 videos, views a day. And then, that's ridiculous amounts of money. And to be doing that every day, 5, 10, 20,000 views every day, making ridiculous amounts of money. And you don't even have to do nothing but turn your camera on. These guys are already famous. And, that's free promotion. That's the thing that they're missing is that it's free promotion. And the one thing Terence Crawford is lacking is a proper promotion. Everybody says that Bob Arum didn't promote him correctly. Bob Arum didn't do this. Bob Arum, but YouTube's been out here the whole time. He's just not, like I said, he's not that type of person to be that active out here in the world, like a Terence, like an Errol Spence, or like some of these other guys. He's a family guy. But his family life is monetized. He could take it and just show how he's a good guy, how he's a family man, and put that on YouTube and monetize that and teach people how to box like him on through YouTube, and monetize. He would make a killing. He would he need to let me be his marketer. Come get with me, Terence Crawford. Come get with me. I'll blow you up. And I get a little cheese on the back end. But definitely, people got to take advantage of this free promotion that's out there. All the free promotion that's out there, you got to take advantage of, especially when you're in the entertainment industry. And especially when you're as famous as he is, and you need a different type of push. And I think the thing he's missing is his social media presence. He don't really have a huge. He has a big audience, but he's not on there like all the time just promoting himself. So I think that's the one thing that he needs to tweak is he needs to be a lot more present on social media and give fans a little more insight to his life, and the way he thinks, the way he acts, the way what he actually wants out of this from the rest of his career. I think people are really interested in that type of stuff. And once again, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. Is it Mayweather? Is it PBC? Does he stay independent? Because I want to see him actually stay independent. But I think Mayweather, if he signed with Mayweather Promotion, they can get the fight done a lot faster. But I think if he goes independent, man, he can definitely make some waves if he just put on his own shows, get himself a YouTube channel and start promoting himself similar to Jake Paul and them. Because what Jake Paul and them, I can give them credit, same way I give Mayweather credit, even though I hate them, I can't stand them. I hate them with a passion for what they doing to the sport. But these guys are smart. They are leveraging the power of YouTube and their fan base to make them millions of dollars. So, why can't Terence Crawford and these other fighters start, taking a portion of what those guys is doing? They're taking a portion of what you're doing as far as using boxing to make money, and they're not real boxers. So why don't you take a portion of what they're doing as far as being a YouTuber and start getting some of that YouTube money, and get some of that YouTube fame and some of that YouTube popularity? Who wouldn't want to see Terence Crawford or Errol Spence do a crate challenge or something retarded, like something silly like that? Who wouldn't want to see Terence Crawford, like I showed in the video, him live streaming on YouTube, or him just out and about, revving his car or fixing his cars, or what type of food he likes to eat on the day. This is all monetizable stuff, and especially the part of them teaching. I think that's where somebody's really going to win in boxing is the first boxer that gets on here and starts to teach boxing to people who want, because there's millions of people out here who want to learn how to fight and box, and who wouldn't want to do that from a professional fighter? There's a lot of fake gurus on her, people who claim to be boxing coaches and to know everything about boxing, but who wouldn't want to actually learn that from a professional fighter? So I think that would be the first fighter to do that is going to make serious amounts of money. like endless amounts of money because the guys who don't really know what they're doing at this point are winning, and the fakers are winning. The Jake Pauls of the world are winning. It's time for the real to come back, man. The real got to start taking over this, man. And I would love to teach what I know about boxing, but I'm not a professional and I'm not a coach, so I don't want to. I got videos up of my technique and what I do, but I'm not a professional. I'm not a coach. So I wouldn't want to mislead people into believing that. But maybe I will. Maybe I'll make it a part of my channel from now on. And just show the way I train and how I stay in shape and my diet and all that type of stuff. Maybe that's monetizable for me too as well. But I appreciate everybody for coming through. It's been a pretty good conversation. I think I'm gonna get ready to end it there. I'm gonna play this video one more time for those who didn't see it, and then I'll come back and finish this up. So y'all check it out one more time if you ain't checked it out already.
Nowadays, everybody in their daddy got the fire spit. Keys spit what you fight fires with.
Yo, 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 yo. What's up? What's up? What's up? My little homies. I ain't got no charge. Man, I just gotta, get some facts straight out here, man. I hear, a couple of us always got my name in their mouth, putting out some false information.
The difficulty in making the fight with Terence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr., and pretty much it was this. Terence Crawford is pretty much boxed in. We all know who the PBC is run by, Al Heyman, and I'm sure Floyd Mayweather Jr. as well.
What is you fans is gonna say? Oh, you beat a bum. you beat a nobody. This is my prize jewels. You see the face, June 9th, 2018. How many years? Whew. Lot. Since I was 7. Hey, so I'm sitting over here teaching my son how to make a basketball hoop with a net out of a hanger, a plastic bag from the stove. See, this is what we used to do when I was kids, when I was probably like 5 in the early 90s. We didn't have no basketball hoops, to play with, so we had to improvise. Get you a hanger, plastic bag, some tape, sock, ball it up, get you a door. Put that in there like that.
Alright, y'all. So I think I'm gonna end it off by talking about, do you think that Terence Crawford might be a little bit bitter? A little bit bitter that he's not as popular as Errol Spence. That he did sign that extension with Bob Arum. That he didn't fight Manny Pacquiao when he had the opportunity. Do you think it's bitterness on his accord, not taking the 60-40 split and kind of trying to draw this thing out? Because when you ask the question, and I put up a lot of community polls, and I think I'm gonna start putting them up every morning and just seeing where everybody's at and start interacting a lot more with the community section. So go over to the community section of my YouTube channel and check out the community polls. But I'm gonna put up a community post with something like is Terence Crawford bitter because he's not having the success that Errol Spence is having, that he did sign those extensions, that he didn't fight Pacquiao, and perhaps he feels like you know, if I wouldn't have stuck around there for so long, I'd be more popular, you know. Maybe he's holding, you know, because when you ask the question, who's holding the fight up? And that's what I was getting at. When you ask people the question, who's holding the fight up, it's almost 50-50. Some people think it's Crawford. Some people think it's Spence. But at the end of the day, you know, we all know there's an A side and a B side in boxing. And the reasons and the parameters for that. And we all know that Errol Spence has a little more than Terence Crawford has in the sport. So do you think it's a little bit of bitterness on his accord by saying, you know, I'm not going to take the fight at 60-40, and I'm going to hold this thing up until I can get my way because I'm not as popular as you, or I didn't sign as good a deal as Errol Spence did, or that, you know, I didn't take that Pacquiao fight. You think that's a little bit of bitterness on his part? Or do you think, you know, it is what it is? You think that's fair bitterness on his part? You think he deserves to be a little bit bitter because of what Bob Arum potentially did to him? Which, I mean, he did sign the extension, so you can't say it was all Arum's fault. He signed the extension, but I think it is just a little bit of bitterness on his accord by not taking the 60-40 split, by saying, you know what, I'm just gonna hold things. You want to hold me up, I'll hold you up as well. You know, and I think that's unfair on Terence Crawford's part. And I think that's why Spence keeps playing this weird game with him. Is because he knows, like I always say, he knows he has the leverage. But it's almost like Terence Crawford says he wants to fight, and I keep calling him out. And y'all know I keep calling him out. But he never accepts the deals that he's offered. He didn't accept the Pacquiao deal once. He didn't accept the Pacquiao deal again. He didn't accept the 60-40. You know, he didn't accept Spence's first offer. So, you know, I think at the end of the day, you got to put a little bit of this on Terence Crawford as well. Even as a fan of Terence Crawford, as a supporter, you might not be a fan. As a supporter of Crawford or somebody who speaks highly of Crawford, you gotta look at it for what it is. Like, man, maybe he's just a little bit bitter. Maybe he is holding things up just a little bit because he sees the success that Errol Spence has had all this time. He sees the popularity Errol Spence has had all this time, and maybe he's just a little bit bitter. Likable guy, love the guy, good guy, great boxer, but maybe he's just a little bit bitter inside because he's not as popular or as famous, and maybe he made some bad decisions with his business in boxing. You know, what do you guys think about that, man? Drop me some comments if you guys want to drop some comments at this point. If not, I think I'm going to end it there for the day. Anybody who missed it can watch the replay. And again, we'll be back on here tomorrow for the people who enjoyed it. Please do come back tomorrow, man. If you want to, you can call in. We can chop it up over the phone, have a nice little conversation, and talk boxing. Man, I got some new people coming in. Hit that like button as y'all come in. As y'all come in, hit that like button, man. It's been a pretty nice talk. But like I said, once again, y'all can check the replay, and I'll probably be back on here tomorrow. You guys have a great night. We are at her.
Nowadays, everybody in their daddy got the fire spit. Key spit, what you fight fires with.
Yo, 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 yo. What's up? What's up? What's up? My little homies. I ain't got no charge. Man, I just gotta, you know, get some facts straight. I hear, you know what I mean, a couple of us always got my name in their mouth, putting out some false information.
The difficulty in making the fight with Terence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr., and pretty much it was this. Terence Crawford is pretty much boxed in. We all know who the PBC is run by, Al Heyman, and I'm sure Floyd Mayweather Jr. as well.
So, I mean, what is you fans is gonna say? Oh, you beat a bum. You beat a nobody. This is my prize jewels. You see the face, June 9th, 2018. How many years? Whew. Lot. Since I was 7. Hey, so I'm sitting over here teaching my son how to make a basketball hoop with a net out of a hanger, a plastic bag from the stove. See, this is what we used to do when I was kids, when I was probably like 5 in the early 90s. We didn't have no basketball hoops, you know what I mean, to play with, so we had to improvise. Get you a hanger, plastic bag, some tape, sock, ball it up, get you a door. Put that in there like that.
All that seems to be on my mind is hustling. All that seems to be on my mind is hustling. All that seems to be on my mind is hustling. I just wanna touch a onion. She just want a couple hundred. I got mad and changed the subject. Then I got drunk and said fuck it. This is for my hustling niggas. This is for my hustling bitches. Pull up with that Aquafina. Yellow bone, her name is Tina. Tina like the hit casinos. Tina could snort a whole kilo. Tina like to fight and argue. Bye bye Tina, bitch, you argue. Met a dark skin chick named Anna. Anna like that marijuana. Anna was from the Bahamas. At least that's what she said. I assume she's honest. I apologize, Your Honor. I just wanted me some money. You can't tell these niggas frontin'. You can't tell these niggas nothing. 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 All that seems to be on my mind is hustling. All that seems to be on my mind is hustling. This is for my hustling niggas. This is for my hustling niggas. This is for my hustling bitches. This is for my hustling bitches. Nigga, don't act so suspicious. Hustle hot as hell, but you swear they snitching. You don't wanna go to prison. You don't wanna go to prison. You don't wanna come up missing. You don't wanna come up missing. I just want a couple bitches. Put them in the ring, make a split decision. I'm trying to slow down with the sending. I pray to God, no, he'll forgive me. Me and God had a discussion. He said, tell him. I said, you can't tell these niggas nothing. You can't tell these niggas nothing.